Hi, my name is Randy Sharp, and I want to welcome you to Dinner Party Tonight. Today we're going to be making a fancy dinner party. Now this would be for your partner's future boss, or your future boss, or somebody in your family, or a friend that you would really love and respect and want to throw a fancy fete for. We're going to be serving chilled pea shooters with mint, deviled eggs, herb-crusted filet, Brussels sprouts, fancy flawless rice, and creamed leeks. After that, a chocolate cake. A couple little things about a fancier dinner party. So we're gonna prep in an apron, but I suggest that you have a second apron that you're going to change into before your guests arrive. I would also suggest a change of clothes. What I do usually is I take out a pair of leggings and a big shirt, like a nicer shirt, and put them upstairs. And then right before they come, I run upstairs, change into the simple outfit, run downstairs, change my apron, and open the door. So that is what I would suggest. So this is apron one. It's gonna get dirty. They don't wanna see a dirty apron. Always remember that. When you come home from work the day before your dinner party, to do a little bit of pre-prep will make the day of your party so much easier. Many of the components in today's menu can be prepped in advance. So it's simply firing it, as they would say in the restaurant world. I highly recommend doing a little prep the night before. Fancy dinner, so a little more effort is involved. A fancy dinner party should always have champagne, don't you think? So when you plan for your dinner party, buy a bottle of champagne, look here for buying tips, and look here for opening tips. But the most important thing is when you buy the champagne, put it in the fridge in the morning. Let's bring in something a little bit exciting. We are going to make a cordial called 44 or 44, which is a French country, basically homemade liqueur. As you're making it, keep in mind that it has to rest in the jar for 44 days after you make it, before you serve it. So let's make 44. You need 44 coffee beans, 44 cubes of sugar, and use the one with the parrot on the box, or one that's not super bleached, but don't use demerara or that sugar in the raw. Don't use that because it'll affect the color. And you need vodka. So I use Tito's, which is made in America. But you should really use 100 proof vodka if you can find it, because it's a completely flavorless liquor. Start with an organic orange. Wash it with soap and water. The guy who stacked it in the grocery store might have had poo-poo on his hands, so you always have to wash. I'm gonna insert 44 coffee beans into this orange. The French, because they're French, probably sit there and somehow stick these into the orange. It's impossible. So what I do is I make 4 cuts just barely through the skin, just like that, barely through the skin. And I start to put in the coffee beans so that they're not visible, they're inside the skin. We're making 44. Nobody knows what we're making it for, but we're making 44. So the reason why you use an organic orange is because you're going to soak it in alcohol, and all of the disgusting pesticides that are used on oranges will leach into your liqueur, which is not cute and also causes cancer, so you don't want that. What I would suggest is that as you're putting this in, do it over the container. Now you're going to need a large jar, and all the drips are going to drip in here. I still have some left, and all the lines are filled, so now I'm going back over and looking for spaces in the lines. See that? That one's cut a little bit deep, but it really doesn't matter. It probably doesn't matter if you actually use 44 of everything, but you're supposed to. Remember, the longer you leave this, the better it's gonna be, but you must leave it for 44 days. Now the container, think about this before you do this, has to be able to hold an orange, so it's gotta be big enough to hold an orange. We put 44 sugar cubes in. 2, 4, 44 sugar cubes. You're going to remove the pesky pouring thing, because you don't need that. And you're going to take your vodka and you're going to pour it in. Now you notice what happened? the orange floated. You have two options. You can let the orange float. It will eventually sink as it becomes filled with liquid. Or you can take a chopstick, like we did for pickled shrimp, and press it down so that the orange is held below the surface. Regardless of whatever you do, you want to seal this with a little saran wrap because alcohol evaporates and you don't want your 44 not to have alcohol in it, God forbid. I like to make it look nice even though nobody sees it. Put whatever your lid is on top. And then forget you made it for 44 days. Put it in a cool, darkish place and just forget about it. I usually put a P-Touch label here that says the date that it's ready, and then I don't think about it until that day. And you will see it changing color over the course of the 44 days. Then you take it out and you drain it into a coffee basket or a coffee filter or even a sieve, and it will look like this. That is completed 44. And man, is it good. Oh, let's make some chocolate cake. Sorry. Chocolate cake. I would suggest making this the night before if you're not too tired after work, or making it first thing in the morning, just because it makes a little bit of a disruption in the kitchen. You don't need that when you're making the actual meal. So let's go ahead and make chocolate cake. What you've done in advance before you've done anything is you have preheated the oven and you have taken 2 8-inch pans and buttered them, lined the bottom with pre-cut rounds, just buy them on Amazon, and then buttered the round. Always do that in advance. You've taken some cocoa powder. The recipe is on Epicurious. It's called cocoa layer cake for amounts. You've melted it in a little water, and you have some buttermilk also mixed with water. Combine the sugar and the butter. You're using 1 stick of butter, which is half of a plus gras. I like plus gras for baking. It holds together well, and it's the name is funny because it means more fat in French. You're gonna put this into your mixer like that. A cup of sugar. And you're gonna combine it. Now I'm just gonna tell you something about baking. What you think is combined is not combined. All right, so you wanna go way beyond what you've ever thought of as combined. Okay, now, I'm gonna tell you. So there are some people who would consider that combined, and in fact, I did until I figured this out. Combined means combined, not mixed together. So keep going until it is a very light colored, smooth paste. 3 to 5 minutes, which is what a lot of people don't know. You've beaten this for about 5 minutes. It still appears slightly granular, but it's much more incorporated with itself. Now, with the mixer on low, I'm going to incorporate 2 eggs that I've beaten together at room temperature. Gradually add this. So I'm waiting for this to be pale and fluffy. Like some boys I know. Occasionally stop your mixer and sort of scrape down the sides. You know, the KitchenAid is an amazing machine. It still has flaws. You still have to do this. Unless you get those new whisks that have this blade thing on the side. Makes an excellent birthday gift. Now, just so you know what I'm talking about, that's pale and fluffy, okay? All right, that's what you want. While it's pale and fluffy, you're gonna add vanilla. I always add more than they tell you, and I use vanilla paste, which is an amazing thing. And I usually put in a tablespoon. This has, you can see it on the side here, it has the little beans of the vanilla bean, the little flecks. You can't see that in the chocolate cake, but it still makes much better vanilla flavor. You can get it at the amazing King Arthur flour. Get good quality cocoa powder in warm water. Follow the recipe on Epicurious. I'm actually going to stop that, and I'm going to pour that in. Slowly incorporate that. Y'all can write in and tell me how you don't do it this way, but this is the right way. And we're gonna add the flour, which is flour, baking soda, and salt, and we're gonna alternate with buttermilk. Anybody can do this. It's not scary. Okay, we're gonna turn this way down because it's gonna make a mess. All right, you're gonna add about 1/3 of that, and then you're gonna add about 1/3 of your buttermilk and water mixture. 1/3 more of this. And don't be afraid to bake, you can do it. It's not that hard, guys. And also, apps like Epicurious, Bon Appetit magazine, Saveur magazine, Food and Wine is really coming up. Just read them in the bath. You'll become a better cook. Okay, this is my final third. It was a little more than 1/3. Okay, I'm gonna add the end of the buttermilk. Okay, I'm just gonna wipe down the sides. We're almost done. So I don't know how much time you had to drink wine there, but hopefully you were watching The People's Couch, which is the greatest show on television. See how it looks almost like meringue, like it's so fluffy? I'll tell you who's gonna enjoy this cake. Lynn, Regina, Hightow, and Nick. Take your pre-prepared pans. 1, 2, 1, 2. Look at that. Pour it. I use counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got 4 in each. 5. 5. Don't worry about smoothing it. Sorry about the banging. You're also getting big air bubbles out, which is good. So then you take your 2 cakes like this, you walk over to the oven and you say, "Open Linsanity." And it magically opens. And you place them both in the center. It's preheated oven. Close it up. And you're gonna cook them until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. It's about 35, 40 minutes, I think, but I'm gonna do it by eye. So you may have noticed we made 2 cakes. Now here's the deal. You can serve a single cake simply sprinkled with confectioner's sugar, or you can serve a layer cake. I'm just gonna remind you, grown-ups don't really like to eat a huge iced cake at the end of dinner. It's too sweet. So what I usually do if I wanna do a center filling is I take a container of mascarpone, dump it into a bowl, and we did this for another episode, I believe. Sweeten it with baker's sugar, or it's called castor sugar. We talked about that. Give it a little sweetener there. Mix it in. You don't use confectioner's sugar because it clumps up. A little bit of vanilla. It can just be vanilla extract. Oops. And this you're going to sort of spread in between the 2 cakes, and then you're going to sprinkle confectioners on the top. If you want to be super naughty, and maybe there's a kid coming and you want to kind of split the difference between icing and not icing, is you can put chocolate chips in this. This can be made the night before also. Cover it with saran wrap and throw it in the fridge. Your cake really has to be at room temperature before you attempt any decoration, even just the powdered sugar if you're doing the single layer. If it's warm, everything's gonna melt. So just don't do that. Wait until it's cool to room temperature. Filet. Hey. Let's talk about filet. So when you buy a filet, you're buying the center part of the Fred Flintstone roast, this part, okay? It runs down the inside of the back of the animal. Please buy whole animal butcher meat, which are butchers that take whole carcasses and cut them down because it's very expensive, as it should be, and usually those are humanely kept animals. Ask your butcher, it matters. And also, tip your butcher. So when you buy a filet, you can buy the entire filet, which is going to run you about $300, $270, so you don't want that. For these special people, you want the center cut, or the Chateaubriand, which is the center part of the filet. The filet is folded under and tied, but this is the Chateaubriand, so there's no fold, okay? But there's a little fold there. But the tail ends, they fold it under and then they wrap it with string or fat or bacon, depending on what you asked for. The day that you are gonna cook this, you're gonna take it out of the refrigerator in the morning. If you cook cold meat, let alone cold Chateaubriand, you're just an idiot. I can't help you. It's not a total loss if you make port sauce. So let's make a little port sauce. Goes well with filet. Or with, really it's for the filet. You can make this a day in advance, and then you reheat it and throw a little butter in and whisk a little butter in right at the end. Let's put some heat under a pan. But it's not hot pan olive oil. This time it's hot pan butter, but not too hot. 2 tablespoons of butter. It's almost like a red wine sauce, but it's got port in it. Now, when you buy the port, buy tawny port, but don't buy super sweet port. You don't want that. You want sort of a sherry-ish, dryish port. So you're gonna melt this butter down, and we've chopped up shallots, which we've done in so many episodes now that I'm not gonna tell you how to do it. I'm gonna put those shallots in there. Hear the sound? Sprig of rosemary in the pan. Let that work its magic a little bit. Swirl around. This is very easy and quite eleganza when it's made. You put it in a little gravy boat. It's red, brownish red. It's pretty elegant. Then we're going to put in some cognac. This step is not necessary. This is also superb cognac. You can use cheaper cognac. A tablespoon? I don't know. Okay. And we're going to cook that down until there's basically no liquid. I'm going to put some salt. So we're kind of making like a base right now, like a We're going to let this kind of really dry out in the pan. A little bit of pepper. I'm going to put a few pink peppercorns in. They're chefy. This is Taylor Fladgate. It's actually pretty good port. It's a little bit sweet. So I'm going to use a little bit of red wine also to cut it. Now we're going to cook this down until it's half gone. You can also add a little bit of beef stock or chicken stock. I forgot to buy beef stock, so we're going to use chicken stock. This just gives it another dimension, so I'm going to put a little bit of chicken stock in there. I'm going to put a tiny bit more butter in it now, as opposed to waiting. Now just let this go. The fancy name for putting butter in at the very end before you serve it and you whisk it in, it's called monter à beurre, which means add butter and whisk it in. Why they just can't say that. So we're just going to let that cook. And then you basically take it off the heat until you're ready to serve. You warm it up and whisk in the butter. Port sauce. The port sauce has reduced by about half. So I'm just going to very quickly strain it. And then I'm going to press down on the solids to get the maximum amount of sauce. Like I'm a saucier or something. A quick wipe. And then I'm just going to pour this back into the bowl. And that's ready to be served. So you can leave it there. You can reheat it when your meat comes out, for instance. Pour it into a gravy boat and set it out with the meat. It's neat. Let's make pea shooters. So the great thing about pea shooters is that they're super, super easy, and they can also buy you service time if you need to sort of occupy your guests with something. I serve it in these little cups that I bought on Amazon. They're from Libby. They come in boxes of 12. They're very inexpensive. And I got these little bamboo spoons, but people usually just drink it like this. These are a good thing to add to your collection. And let's make pea shooters. Now, this is kind of pathetically easy for this very fancy thing that people love. It's served chilled, but to make it, it's like an idiot could make it. But you need a blender. Put the peas in the blender. Pretty difficult. A little bit of ice cold water goes in the blender. Don't ever tell anybody how easy this is. A little bit of salt, some mint, which I've washed and dried. If you have a good blender, you don't have to chop it. And then you blend it. Now I'm going to check the consistency. Obviously this is too thick. Yeah, way too thick. So I add more water. I like to put a little bit of lemon in there. A little bit more salt, tasting as you go, always, always, always. Here we go, blender. Remember, it's gonna thicken a little bit in the refrigerator. I'm putting a little more mint in, and then I'm gonna puree it, and it's done. Tiny bit more salt. Taste as you go, trust yourself. Like we always say, you're always right. If it doesn't taste good, you're not crazy. Fix it. I have a Vitamix, the greatest mixer ever, was given to me as a present by Regina, who also does all our still photography. Don't tell anybody how easy this is, okay? That is a beautiful thing to behold. Minty, lemony, pea. So when you're ready to serve, it should be ice cold from the refrigerator. Everybody's standing around, out of sight. They don't want to see you pouring from a deli. Go in the other room or something, and you just pour a little bit into the cup. If you want, you can put 3 little dots of olive oil. I don't do that. And then you simply hand it to them with a spoon. And it couldn't be more charming. Let's make deviled eggs. So how do you boil eggs so that they're not overboiled or underboiled for deviled eggs? Well, you cook them for 7 minutes. Start them in not boiling water so they don't crack. Then you take your 7-minute egg, you crack it all over like this so that it's completely cracked, and you peel it. On super fresh eggs, the membrane is impossible to get off, and it's hellish peeling super fresh eggs. These are in between brand new and old. The membrane is coming away with the shell, which is what you want. And then you just quickly I dunk these in an ice bath just to get the little bits of shell off. We're gonna use some pickled ingredients on top of our deviled eggs. And if you wanna learn about pickling, go here. Today we're gonna use pickled jalapenos and pickled shallots and an incredible thing that I made called hot pepper jelly. The recipe is on Bon Appetit's website, not on Epicurious for some reason. It's delicious on crackers with cream cheese, but it's also incredible on deviled eggs. So make this, it's fun, it's kind of beautiful, and people love it. Let's go ahead and assemble deviled eggs. You're gonna need a sharp knife and a wet rag, because when you cut the eggs, you're gonna get egg residue and it's gonna get all over the eggs. So you wipe the knife every time you cut an egg. Cut it in half. Oh my God, it's perfectly cooked. See how the center is a little bit wet? That's what you want. Make the effort and buy a deviled egg tray. Because I'm gonna tell you, it's impossible to make them to stay still on a regular plate. Now, as Lynn knows, we go to a bar, not that we drink, called the Blue Ribbon Bar. And they make deviled eggs in this super simple way that is totally delicious, but super decadent. I do not remove the yolks and pound them into a paste with mayonnaise. I simply take the mayonnaise and I take a spoon like that and I put it on top of the egg. Pretty decadent. Then, with another spoon, you take a pickled shallot, place that on top of your egg, a little slice or 2 of pickled jalapeno, place that. Come on. It took a lot of work to get these like the ones at Blue Ribbon, right, Lenny? Because they use so much freaking mayonnaise, which is what I didn't realize until I went back there and had to eat them a lot. And then, of course, when you're eating them, you have to have a few drinks. And they have sherry flights there. Suggestion, these are very filling, so you have a choice. If you didn't buy enough food and extra people are coming, make a lot of deviled eggs, because if they eat a lot of deviled eggs, really kills your appetite. If you are having a few people, don't make a lot, because people will eat them because they're delicious and they'll lose their appetite, so be careful. Let's make one with the jelly. Here we go. Gonna wipe my knife. Very simple, very beautiful appetizer. Oh, perfectly cooked. Don't be stingy. Look at that. I mean, that's, you know, it's very, very naughty. What the hell is wrong with mayonnaise? Why does everybody freak out about mayonnaise? You need a little mayonnaise in your life. This jelly is like, it's just a very lovely color. It's very beautiful. So you can also buy this pre-made at the store. You just take a little bit of that spicy kind of jelly and just place it on top of your mayonnaise. Charming. Leave a couple without any spice because some people are very uptight about that and they don't like spicy food. And then right before you serve it, you're going to go like this with pepper across the top. And then you're going to go like this to blow the little pepper flakes away so that it's only on the eggs. And as you see, that couldn't be more gorgeous and lovely. People love them, but don't eat too many. So these can be made in advance, but not too far in advance. You can make them the morning of your party. The problem is storing them because you can't cover them because they have mayonnaise. You can't put saran wrap on it. It's a difficult thing to store, so you just put it gently in the fridge and hope it doesn't get too dried out. That's about how long you can put it in the fridge. Probably in the late morning of the day of the dinner party. Also, do them in advance because assembling them is a little fussy, as you saw. But these are delicious. They're devilish. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the day of your party. Now would be an okay time to take a short break where you could perhaps have a little glass of wine, have a tea, play with your dogs. Or you could play the design award-winning video game, Prune, where you prune a tree so it can grow towards the sun. Prune! Prune it! Prune the tree! Ah, I hit the thing. Prune the tree. I killed it. Let's assemble the chocolate cake. We're gonna do the mascarpone filling. It's a little more extravagant. Basically, I'm just gonna pick up one of these chocolate cakes that we made and set it on the cake stand. And you can go nuts on Etsy buying cake stands, it's fun. Take some mascarpone, which is essentially sweet sour cream. Recommendation, get the edges, because the edges are what make the slice look good. Now, Regina, who does, as I told you, our still photography, does not agree that you should put a cake in the refrigerator for some bizarre reason.
No one likes cold cake.
No one likes cold cake. I think it makes the cake setup nicer, but she might be right. I just think this is better than the whole chocolate icing thing, and it's not because I hate making icing, but I do hate making icing. Then I'm gonna pick up the other cake, gently, because it's very tender and lovely. It's like a young wee lass. And I'm gonna just press it down like that. It's country style, which means it's a little bit messy. You wanna make sure that your presentation plate is clean. That means crumb-free and splodge-free. I'm going to sprinkle some confectioner sugar on top of it. One time, Linny made a laser cut letter for my niece, and then I sprinkled this on it, and we peeled the letter back, and it had an E, because her name is Elizabeth. It was very cool. But anyway, just sprinkle this on like this, and you know, suddenly you have a proper dessert. Make a clean wipe, and you have a beautiful cake. Now, this can be assembled a couple hours before you're gonna serve it, but remember, the mascarpone will loosen, so keep it in a cool place, or the fridge. And also the confectioner sugar eventually will soak in, so it can't be 5 hours, but it can certainly be an hour and a half or 2 hours before. Cake. Why not bake a cake? Now this prep should be done about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before your filet is ready to go into the oven. After it's already been out of the fridge, okay? What you're gonna do is you're just gonna do a light coating of olive oil on it, so put it in your hand. And don't respect this thing, it gave its life for you, don't forget that. So we're gonna treat it as sweetly and beautifully as we can. Okay, and then we're going to coat it with basically chopped up herbs. Now I didn't show this because I figure chopping up herbs is not that difficult. You just take thyme, rosemary, a little bit of sage, not too much because it's medicinal, parsley, and just finely chop it, or even put it in the food processor if you don't want to do that. I'm going to put a little bit of salt, kind of roll it around in the salt. Don't forget to get the ends. A little bit of pepper. Push this onto it. So these are the herbs that I cut up. So I'm going to go like this. So the reason these are a little bit dark is because they're actually, I put a little bit of oil in them because I cut them last night and I wanted them to stay nice. So you don't have to be prissy. Then you're going to take your pre-prepared pan, which you've put tin foil on. You're just going to place it there so it's totally ready to go. Nothing to do now with this except cook it. A little bit more salt. Your filet is ready to go into the oven about an hour and a half after it's sat with this on it for some time so it can really get herby. So I say, hey, filet, how about some Brussels sprouts? This you can do the night before. You're going to serve them as well, perhaps during another episode of The People's Couch. Why would you watch anything else? What you're going to do is prep them. Now, Brussels sprouts are minute cabbages. That's literally what they are. They're tiny little genus of cabbages. Well, when you eat a cabbage, you don't eat the bottom part. So prepping a Brussels sprout is very easy, but it's time consuming. So make time to do this. You're going to cut off the bottom generously. Peel the first 2 layers off, because that's dirty. Now it hasn't been touched by man or animal. If it's that big or bigger, you're going to slice it down the center. Just like that. To add a little texture to your dish, pull it into separate leaves like that. I do 75% hunks, 25% leaves, because it's kind of an interesting texture. If they're really small, leave them whole. If they're big, you have to quarter them sometimes if they're really big. Like the late winter ones get really big. You're gonna take your trusty hotel pan. Okay. So they look sort of like that. And then you're gonna season them. Now, like you know from Dinner Party Tonight, if it looks and tastes good raw, you're guaranteed that it's gonna look and taste good roasted, okay? I'm gonna salt and pepper them, almost like I'm making a raw Brussels sprout salad. Pepper, you know these things, they have a life, pepper grinders. And you're gonna toss it around like a salad. Taste one. Pretty darn good. You can do this in the afternoon. The point is to have everything ready to fire before they get there, so they're not seeing you do anything. Okay, look at that. Then you just set those aside. Let's make creamed leeks. It's delightful, delicious, and a little bit naughty. The first thing you have to do is prep your leeks. You have to clean your leeks. Let's talk about cleaning leeks. Eek! A leek! When you buy leeks, they have a long green thing here, and they have roots that stick out here like a squid. They're very dirty because the part that you eat is actually in the ground. So cleaning leeks is essential. The way you clean a leek is as follows, fellows. First of all, cut the big leaves off and cut the root off. Cut off the first layer of leek. If you're using rounds, cut rounds. We're using half rounds, so you're just gonna go like this. But you can get leeks where you can actually see dirt in between these circles. So although Regina and I disagree on how to clean leeks, she's not saying anything even though she's standing right over there, I take the half pieces of leek and I put them in a sieve over water and I go like this to open up the little circles so that there's no hiding grit. Reggie cuts big hair in the leek and then rinses it under running water, equally effective. Run it through water one time and add it to the rest of the leeks that you've prepared by the magic of television. This is another sort of time-consuming job. I would just get this out of the way morning or afternoon of when you want to serve them. No more eeks, just leeks. Or I could eke out an existence by eating leeks. Don't peek, it's leeks. Creamed leeks are very luxurious. If you make them thin, they're sort of a saucy thing. If you make them thick, they're a side dish, and you can actually gratiner that side dish by putting them into a nice container and sprinkling breadcrumbs on them. The panting sound is Vivian. I'm gonna just show you how to make it as a sort of a condiment-y thing, but if you thicken it up a little bit, put it in a dish and sprinkle breadcrumbs on it and broil it for a second, it's another delicious side dish. Actually, speaking of Vivian, somebody wrote in and asked me why she pants like that. It's because she has Cushing's disease, which is a fairly benign condition, but it makes her body temperature sensors off. So it's harmless, but she does pant sometimes. Anyways, let's make these on fleek leeks. It's not
Hot pan olive oil.
It's hot pan butter again. Don't let them see you do that, because they're not going to like it. They're going to go, it's too much butter in it, I'm not going to eat it. Morons. It's actually too much butter. I'm going to take some butter out. I'm going to add the cut shallots. Oh, it's already good. Okay, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of white wine vinegar. About that much. And when it's nice and fragrant and yummy, you can put in a little dried herbs. This is a little bit of dried parsley, actually, that I grew. And a few green flecks in the creamy dish is nice, so I put that in. Now I'm gonna add the leeks. And then after these have cooked down a little bit, I'm gonna add some white wine. This is very easy stuff, but it comes out very kind of fancy. I forgot to buy white wine, so I think I'm gonna use sherry. A little bit of sherry. Let this cook down until they get a little soft. And I would taste it now, even if it seems weird, because you want to know if it needs salt. A little bit of salt. All right, lovely. And then you're going to add cream. They really don't want to see this. Just, they don't need to see it. It's not for them. Okay? So you're going to, it's called creamed leeks. It has cream in it, okay? Crucify me. All right, you just, basically that amount. You're just going to cook this down until it's the consistency you want. Remember, when it cools, it's going to thicken. A little pepper. And this is something you can make if you need a side in a hurry, because it's quite easy to make. So we'll let that reduce for a minute, and then you can leave it on the stove, or you can put it in a deli and leave it in the fridge if you're using it the next day. If I was having a dinner party tonight, I would probably leave it on the stove. I'm going to taste it again. Ooh, it's hot. Wow. Man, that's good. A little more sherry. Sherry wasn't a bad idea. This is the kind of thing I mean. Just taste it. If the wine tastes weird, like, would that go with creamed leeks? You know the answer. If it doesn't go with creamed leeks for you, it doesn't go with creamed leeks. Let's talk about rice. How do you make it nice? Let me give you some advice about rice. I'm going to tell you a trick that a chef told me. When you make rice for yourself, you don't care that it clumps up or breaks, right? Rice is a grain, and around the grain is a little sort of shell, and under the shell is the starch. If you want sticky rice, you break the shell and it clumps together, okay? If you want fancy European style rice, you don't want that, and this is how you do it. First of all, you boil the water separately. For tips on boiling water, go here. I am using 2 cups of water. I'm going to use 1 cup of rice, which means I'm going to have 2 cups of cooked rice. I'm going to put that on the high heat so it boils. Boil! That's what I want! Boil! It's going to boil. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of salt in there. I'm going to add a little bit of stock to this water. You could actually make this all stock if you wanted. We're going to coat the rice with a little layer of oil before we pour in the water. So the rice is going to maintain its integrity as it cooks. Low. Just going to put a little heat under there. Low. And I'm going to put in a little bit of olive oil. This is a softened butter pack that Lynn dropped on the ground and it's become misshapen. So we're going to use it for adding to things. And I'll let that melt down totally. While we're waiting for the water to boil, when was the last time you had a skin check, America? Please check your skin at least once a year. Why not do it? It's covered by insurance. I'm gonna take my rice and I'm not gonna bang it around or punch it because that's how you get busted rice, okay? You're trying not to break it. You're treating it gently, so gently. And I'm gonna just gently coat the rice with the oil. I'm not stirring it. I can even do it like this. See how it's shiny? That's what you want. I'm gonna be honest with you, the amount of shakes I did, it's possible that I broke some of them. It's really that delicate an item. And people don't really think that way about rice. You also wanna put it in a pot where it doesn't get stacked up like this, like a small pot, like when I'm cooking it for myself and I wreck it every time, because it needs to be able to move around so it doesn't break. We have boiling water, coated rice. I'm gonna pour the boiling water into the rice. So when I'm pouring this in, I'm kind of moving it around because guess what I'm not gonna do is stir it. So I'm trying to use the flow to move the ones that were on the bottom. Take the back end of a spoon and I'm just gonna touch the bottom to make sure that there's no rice stuck. Then if you have some dried herbs, I'm gonna put in a little bit of that dried parsley that I grew that I told you about. Make another little check before I turn the heat down. Now you want it to simmer, not boil. So turn it way down, cover it. Depending on what kind of rice you use, this could take anywhere from 50 minutes if you use brown rice. Good luck not breaking it. If you use regular like Carolina rice, it'll take about 30 minutes. If you use basmati rice, it'll take 20 minutes and it usually comes out perfect, so I would go for the basmati. And that's it. You basically leave it and then after it's cooked, you're gonna taste a kernel to make sure that it doesn't need a little bit more stock. And then you're just gonna leave it. And then right before you serve it, you're just gonna go like this and put a little knob of butter on top of it, and just gently mix it in, and then bring it to the table. Perfect rice. Always nice. Good advice. And I just want to say to Kenya Crook, who admired my gorgeous pots, I bought them very separately from Williams-Sonoma. They're called Ruffoni, R-U-F-F-O-N-I. They were like a very special gift to myself, but thank you for admiring them. They're called Ruffoni. Kenya, thank you for watching. You've preheated your oven to like 480. Or if you have convection, 470. Even 500 if you're not scared. The meat takes around 25 minutes. I know it sounds crazy, but it's about 25 to maybe 30 minutes. And then it should rest almost as long as you cooked it for. Here we go. What you're gonna look for, Juan, who works with me for these huge parties, he's like a genius. He's a much better chef than me. He says, if you see little drops of blood on the top, I'm sorry, it does have blood in it, on the top of the filet, it means it's almost done. He's right. So don't be scared about 25 to 30 minutes, okay? I know it sounds like, oh my God, it's so big, but it's the correct amount of time. Okay, so now's a good time to put the Brussels sprouts in. Leave the oven on very hot. Keep an eye on them. They're gonna cook fairly quickly. You want them to get a little bit crispy bits and stuff like that. So just kind of shake them around a little bit. It's about maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes in a super hot oven. So the leeks have been bubbling and bubbling and bubbling and bubbling away. And they're at the consistency I want, but slightly thinner than what I want because they're gonna reconstitute a little bit as they cool. That's in between, to me, a dish and a condiment right there. You can cook this down further until it's very thick and put it in a small gratin pan, sprinkle some breadcrumbs on the top, and just kind of broil it for a second. I just like to serve it as sort of an in-betweeny. I don't know how to explain it. It's like kind of a vegetable, but kind of a sauce. I don't know. So that's done. I'm just gonna leave that on the stove. Sorry, I was eating wasabi peas. Let's talk about the cordial tray. If you ask people after dinner, would you guys like a little after dinner drink? Everybody will say no. If you come to the table and set down a tray with a selection of common after dinner drinks, I guarantee you 90% of the people will have one. So I usually put a cognac because everybody loves cognac. There's a Madeira, Fernet Branca, which my friend Michael Birnbaum drinks, and probably the only person I know who actually drinks it. A single malt for Reggie. A little fancy liqueur. This is Nocino, which is made from black walnuts. Lynn likes this one. It's a little Christmassy, but it's delicious. And of course, it's insanely sweet, which is why she likes it, because she's Italian. And this is 44, which we made. So this is a great thing. So you bring this to the table, or if you guys are eating in the kitchen, you just take it from somewhere and set it down. You don't even say anything. You say, oh, those are some cordials or whatever. I guarantee you, people, they reach out, they start, oh, maybe I'll try, what is Fernet Branca, or what is 44, and it's just a lovely way to end a meal. So invest in a little tray or even a big plate, and just buy a couple of bottles over the year to offer to people after dinner. They love it, trust me. Run upstairs and change your apron, okay? Because this is your last opportunity. So run up and change. Booyakasha! I've changed. I'm ready for my guests. You finished your fancy pants dinner party tonight. Beautiful creamed leeks. They're lovely. Are they a vegetable dish or a side? No one knew. Delicious. Refined port sauce. Yummy, piquant. Some delicious crispy Brussels sprouts roasted in the oven. A gorgeous filet, herb-crusted, pink. Pea shooters. How delightful and minty. Very, very naughty deviled eggs, and perfect buttery rice. Don't forget the chocolate cake. People are having a great time. You did it. Just know that your instincts are always right, unless you're insane. Then they're not right. But you wouldn't know that because you're crazy. Anyway, at dinner party tonight, we want to say thank you so much for watching the show, for commenting, for asking questions, and I try to answer all the questions that we can. And keep on watching, keep on sharing, liking, and asking me any question you want, as long as you're not insane. Or actually, those questions are okay too. So thank you very much from dinner party tonight. And also, from Leonard. He wanted to say goodbye as well. Prune tree. I touched the sun. I killed the tree again.